Hi, everyone. My name's Dulce Ben East, and I am owner of Kahiltna Birch with my husband Michael. And you probably are familiar with our facility on the Talkeetna Spur Road, but many of you may not know about our more humble beginnings in the center of the Susitna Valley on the Kahiltna River, where we started our business in 1990. So I'm going to give you a little background, and then I just want to go into collecting sap and why you might want to do so. So let's see. This is this is an event by the Susitna River Coalition, and you are still able to submit recipes as of until tomorrow, I think, right? Okay, so this is a picture of the Kahiltna River, and then our homestead is on the Kahiltna River on a little lake called Quiet Lake, and Michael staked it in 1980. And when I came on the scene in about 1988, we were working for Fish and Game, very seasonal harvest type lifestyle, and we really liked that. So we decided to try and figure out how to make a living and live on the homestead and raise a family. And we, in 1989, we tapped about 25 trees and made some very strong dark birch syrup, saw how hard it was to make, but really liked it and decided that we wanted to make a go of it. So we really enjoyed that, being in the woods, the seasonality of it kind of fit with what we liked to do. So by 1992, we bought our first evaporator, and we built the syrup shed or sugar house behind the main cabin there, and started tapping more and more trees. It wasn't ever easy. All the supplies had to be hauled in by snowmachine, about 30 miles overland, and syrup had to be hauled out by floatplane when the lake ice went out in the springtime, and that could be we were very tied to the seasons. The lake ice, I remember a couple years it going out in early June, so that would pretty much delay our whole selling season. But it was always an adventure, and our crews that we had a lot of people come help us over the years, and they loved the adventure of it, and we generally did too. So in 1999, we upgraded to what we called the HERC, our hurricane evaporator. We needed something a little bigger. We started, I think by then we were tapping a couple thousand trees. It requires a lot of firewood to take sap to syrup at 100 gallons of sap at least to a gallon of syrup. And so we invested in a reverse osmosis machine. And what that does is it takes out a whole lot of the water before you start processing the sap to syrup. And so it saves on firewood, it saves on a lot of labor, and it's a lot more efficient. But it does create some logistical issues. The reverse osmosis is a fairly sophisticated piece of equipment with pumps and high pressure pumps and motors. And if something breaks in the middle of harvest, you have to fly a piece of equipment in, or a small part. We've had parts FedEx to us and then dropped by plane onto the lake. So it was always, like I said, a great adventure. But the reverse osmosis was a pretty essential piece of equipment for us to grow the business, which at that point we created a demand, and we needed to grow the business. It's a lot of work to make birch syrup at that scale. Even with reverse osmosis, Sally and I would work sometimes all night, boiling the sap down. You stoke the fire constantly, draw off pretty much constantly as well as the sap becomes syrup. It was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun too. So by about 2005, we realized that we had pretty much reached the limit of what we could make out there on the homestead. Not that there weren't trees everywhere, but the access to them is the problem, because basically you're making syrup during breakup, and your access to trees becomes more and more limited as time goes on. The snow starts to rot, the swamps start to thaw, the lakes and rivers are thawing. So that becomes a real challenge. And We took a really big step in 2009. We purchased the property that our facility is now off the Spur Road, and built the facility we have now and started making syrup there in 2010. And we expanded into harvesting chaga at that time, doing our chaga products and all our wild berry products as well. We'd already started that by then, but we expanded the operation quite a bit. So basically, that's the story on us. I really like to. We always like to encourage people to tap their trees. We have this beautiful resource, and tapping birch trees is a sustainable use of that resource. And the Susitna Watershed is boreal forest, and we have endless amounts of birch trees. So why would you want to? Well, making birch syrup is rewarding. It's a great family activity. Last year, this past spring during the pandemic, we didn't make syrup, but we didn't collect sap either, but a lot of people did. And there was a lot of interest. And I think a lot of it was because people really needed something to do. And it's a great family activity. It's a lot of fun. And it's really not difficult. It's really easy. You need bags, buckets, milk jugs will work to hang on the trees. You need some spouts and you need a drill. We use DeWalt drills with 7/16" bits. The spouts, we sell them on our website. We can access we can source just about anything that you might need. This is a good picture of the different methods. The sap bags work well. Buckets work great. And the tubing, the middle picture shows our tubing operation. We now tube about 8,000 trees really close to our facility, and we still hang buckets on a couple thousand. But it's not a difficult process. It's not rocket science. There's some things you want to know. This is a picture of some of the equipment that might be really good to use. Is a low flat pan is really good, as the more surface area you have on the heat, the faster that sap's going to boil. This is a good picture of a modified barrel stove that pan sits in. These are made by Vermont Evaporator. We actually have several of these pans that we can sell. If you're interested in one, just contact us. The barrel stoves we have access to. If anybody wants to order anything, just let us know. The other thing you can do is tap a few trees and drink the sap. It's the simplest thing to do. It doesn't require any heat, any boiling down, and it's wonderful. It's a wonderful spring tonic. It's good for you. It's refreshing. And the other thing is kids really enjoy the process. I think one of the main things last spring, people were just dying for something to do, and the kids really enjoy it. My kids enjoyed their science projects every spring. We did a science project around collecting sap, and it was really fun. They named their trees, they measured the sap from them, they graphed it, they boiled it down to see what it would taste like halfway down. It's really a fun activity. And we always freeze some sap. We make a birch water beverage, but we also freeze it for personal use. But Thanksgiving, we'll thaw out a gallon of sap and put some cranberries in it and just drink cold sap, and it just is so refreshing. Really enjoyable. I just encourage everybody to take advantage of this beautiful resource that we have. You can find out everything about making birch syrup at our website. We have last year during harvest, we developed a web page specifically to teach people how to tap trees, collect sap, and make syrup. And basically, it really is pretty complete. We will be increasing the amount of supplies we are offering as we get closer. And just check that, and you can always call us, email us, message us on Instagram or Facebook. We're at Alaska Birch Syrup, and really, we're there to help. We really love to see people get into this. And if you're interested in something a little larger, we're also dealers for CDL maple equipment, and we can quote you on equipment, anything like that. And we're really happy to help and encourage people to take advantage of this wonderful resource. And that's about it. Feel free to contact me. Have a safe and warm winter, and we'll see you in the spring.